You're rolling.
Oh, hello. Well, we're going to get started another project today, and as you can see here, we're just about out of soap. This is from our last batch that we made, so this is called Smooth Patch. It's a soap, a Castile hybrid with patchouli oil in it. Today we're going to make some soap. Very similar recipe, except we're going to use lavender for the fragrance, and it's been altered just a little bit. Actually, because I lost the last recipe, so we've developed another one, but it should be very, very similar. Now, when you're making soap, it's really pretty simple. It's a matter of taking oils, which we're going to be using lard, coconut oil, and castor oil. Each one of these, the olive oil is for skin conditioning. The castor oil and the coconut oil in particular give a nice lather. The lard will add, make the bars more solid, and then of course the lavender oil is just for fragrance. But what makes that soap instead of just an oily mess is lye. When you mix the lye and the soap or in the oils together in the proper sequence, in the proper ratios, then a process called sopification takes place, and in a few days you have soap. And that soap that I just showed you, some we made, it's almost a year old and it's still a really nice soap. And
so what's an outline of the process once you know what your weights and your ingredients are? And well, let's start with how do you determine how much lard, what kind of oils, and how much of it to what? There's
actually soap calculators online and stuff that you can use, but it's really you need to read a little bit about. We'll go into more detail today. We're just going to go through a basic recipe here, but the different oils give different properties to the soap. So it's for instance, what's called Castile soap is made out of pure olive oil. I've not made Castile soap before, but from what I understand, it's a soft bar. It's very oily. It doesn't lather and it doesn't rinse off very well. Then on the other side of that is what's known as lye soap, which is like what your great-grandmother probably used, which is a very, very hard bar of soap. It doesn't lather. It cleans just about anything, but it will suck the oil right out of your skin. So what I've done is taken what I feel are the best properties for what I'm making today out of Castile soap and what we would call lye soap, which is really, when you hear the word lye soap, it's normally just an animal fat and lye. So we're using an animal fat and 3 plant oils. The castor oil, you only use about 5% of that, and that's strictly for a lathering. One of the things that Seth and I have done in a lot of these projects is we're looking at self-determination, self-sufficiency, being able to fend for yourself. And it's like, you know, all these things that we do, from processing meat to making leather and fiber crafts, making beer. People have been doing these for hundreds and even some of them for thousands of years, and we've sort of forgotten the technology. So it's my hope that through this series of programs, which we're going to get into a lot of different things over the next months and years here, will help you become more self-reliant, allow you to experiment with some things that maybe you thought you couldn't do. And there's a great satisfaction of making something and having success with it that seems fairly complicated, but most things, if you break them down to the basics, they're pretty simple. So I hope you'll stay tuned with us and watch for more of our programs. We're going to finish this up. We're going to break away and then come back a little later. We got to heat up the...
We'll show a bit of each process.
Yeah, we'll show a little bit of each process. We've got to heat it and we've got to mix it. We'll show the mixing of the lye. That's important. It's a little bit dangerous. You have to use a little bit of caution. And then we'll put it in the molds, and probably tomorrow we'll show. All we're using for molds today is just common glass cooking pans lined with paper,
Wax paper.
wax paper.
All right. Well, we'll meet up with you over at the stove, right?
Yep. Here's a little of more of our home craft stuff here that I'm going to enjoy while we're doing this.
Okay, here we have all of our fats and all of our oils are in this pot heating up. As you can see here, you know, there's those chunks, or the lard and the coconut oil, which only melt at higher temperatures. When this mixture gets to about 130 degrees, we will combine with it a solution that we will have made. We'll make that in a few minutes here, where you combine your water and your sodium or potassium hydroxide. That'll cause an exothermic reaction, means it releases heat. Once that's done and it's back to room temperature, that's when you mix it in with this fat mixture. Then that combination will be stirred for about 15 minutes until the instructions say till it's a honey-like consistency. Then this will be poured out into the molds, covered and allowed to sit for I don't know, 2 or 3 days. Then you cut it into bars and you've got soap. So we'll show you some more of the process once we get going with it.
Okay, Seth is weighing out the lye right now. This is the most dangerous part, really the only dangerous part of the soap operation, is measuring and mixing the lye. It cannot get wet, it cannot touch any water, which you'll find out why in just a second here.
Or your skin.
Or your skin. You really probably should be wearing gloves, but we're not.
Yeah, that's
Careful.
how we roll. 9.6, right?
6'4", careful.
9.
Careful. That's good enough.
6.4.
Seth, don't be even tapping that. I don't want, that's not very balanced on there very well.
I'm gonna have to edit that.
One of our next investments is going to be a set of digital food scales. In just a minute here, Seth's going to start adding the lye into the water and mixing with a plastic or a wooden spoon. This is, again, very dangerous. You never, ever mix the water into the lye. That could cause a very violent reaction with the lye, and you'd have lye water all over the place, and it's extremely caustic. Okay, we're going to start putting the lye into the water now. This water is just tepid. The temperature of the water will go up violently here. So just sprinkle it in a little at a time, and I'm going to stir to mix. Okay, let's let this dissolve a minute. And it's starting to raise in temperature just a little bit. Okay, let's put a little bit more water in, Seth.
Water?
Or I mean, lye.
This is sodium hydroxide. So, as it, I believe, dissociates in the water, the hydrogen and the oxygen come off of the sodium, something like that. Anyway, in that process, energy is released in the form of heat. I believe that there's still potential for reaction even once all this is dissolved, and that remaining potential is what converts the fat into
sophistication. And one thing I was going to say too, as I mentioned earlier,
you can see it steaming now, I think.
Part of the idea of these programs is to help encourage self-reliance. And one of the things that obviously we can't make our own olive oil here. We don't have olive trees. But one thing you can do is make your own lye. And we're going to explore that in an episode later on. It's actually, this is done by a chemical process. But lye, the way they used to make it, is made from wood ash. And we'll demonstrate that on another occasion. Go ahead and add a little bit more there, Sam. Yeah, this is getting quite hot right now.
And one important note, we are using Pyrex.
Absolutely.
Not glass.
Not glass. Last time we did this, we used plastic, and it got a little panicky when we got it clear up to heat. I'm going to take the temperature here in a minute.
Oh, I tell you, it's probably around 250. Oh no, it's steaming. It's nearly boiling. We probably should put cold water in there.
Okay, go ahead and add some more in. That's fine. Nope, dude. It's the rules.
Got some on the bottom of your spoon there. There you go.
Okay, pretty much add the rest of it in, and then
this is going to go directly over here.
Rinse it down the sink really well. That'll help clean the drains too. All your old-fashioned drain cleaners were just nothing but lye, because that same reaction that it has with the water, it has in the oils, it also has with the oils in the pipes, and helps dissolve any clogs.
Is it all dissolved? Is it going to dissolve?
I think it's pretty much dissolved. This point.
Not that.
Well, it's actually soaked.
Oh.
Fat.
Alright, so when this reaches about the same temperature as our fat mixture, I think we're going to combine them, and then we'll almost be done.
Okay, now we're going to start sophistication. We're pouring the oil into the lye mixture. Once that's in there, we need to start stirring. And we need to continue to stir. Once that sophistication takes place, which is basically a reaction between the oil and the lye, and it seems like it takes forever.
The instructions say 15 minutes. Seems like last time we did it, we didn't know when it was really there yet, but
yeah, we used a beater, and
but I can see it is thickening already.
Yeah, it's thickening. Once we get this where it's pretty well moving into the sophistication, then we're going to add our lavender essential oils.
It is important to note too that you use an essential oil, not an oil with fragrance added.
Right.
That can be bad news to your skin. So actually we're using oil that was extracted from the plant material.
Which actually, that's something else we're going to go into in another episode too, is how to do oil extractions and alcohol extractions from different things. Another thing that we like to make, especially around Christmas time, is liqueurs that are made from extractions of things like anise and lemons.
Citrus, isn't it the peel?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, it's the zest.
Zest, yeah.
It's called limoncello, is when you use lemon, and then we also have what's called anisette, which is made from anise seeds that are extracted through alcohol. But again, that's for another show, and we'll share that with you later on.
How's the texture feel? Viscosity?
It's starting to thicken, but it's going to take a little bit yet. Temperature seems, well, I'm going to let it cool a little bit more before we add our fragrance.
So we'll use the magic of television to pick back up at just the right spot. Well, we know we're getting close. We've been stirring now for 45 minutes. And the reason we know we're getting close is, as you can see, as Dad is stirring, it leaves a kind of a wake behind it, and that is known as
trace.
Trace. Kind of like you're tracing in the liquid, I guess.
It leaves a trace behind it, is what it. When we first started, it was just pure liquid and just
like milk.
Like milk. It's thickening now. Still pretty warm. I haven't checked the temperature or anything. I'd say it's still, probably above 100 degrees.
Yeah.
We want to wait till it cools down a little bit more and gets a little thicker before we add our fragrance, but we're not far.
There we go.
Well, it's been an hour now. We're cooling down about to probably 90 to 100 degrees. We're getting a decent trace, but
the last one we made didn't have a lot of trace either, but I think that has to do with the specific recipe you use.
So we're going to go ahead and add our fragrance oil. We're using 2 ounces of lavender essential oil. This is a pretty potent
Are we just going to go with half this bottle then?
Yeah, just half the bottle.
It's a 4-ounce bottle, of course, so I'm going to go to about my thumb there. There it is.
You can smell the lavender in the soap now for sure.
Oh man.
I like the smell of lavender. It's not really a flowery smell, it's more of an herb smell or a
You want to be on the video?
Okay, we've decided we've gone long enough. We're going to start doing our pour.
Was that glass dry and everything before we started? Didn't have lye water in it or nothing?
I don't think so. What fan? Because you're going to flip the other switch? Flip the other switch. No, because it's the way it's set up. No, actually we didn't. We wired it exactly as it was shown. Otherwise, we have to mix wires, and I don't want to do that.
Well, if he don't care, I don't care.
You don't care.
Alright.
No.
Alright.